good evening. I am delighted to welcome you to this distinguished panel of foodies. But it is foodies with a difference. What we are exploring today is the Lebanese food industry and its evolution in Lebanon and abroad. Let me first show you a couple of clips about the potential of Lebanon food industry. Ask you please to have a seat. We're about to start. A lot of work has been done, so please, I think we're ready to start. Thank you. Hello again to all. We have four exceptional people joining me on the panel today. They are successful business leaders and pioneers in their respective fields. But what I have discovered as I Googled them, it is that they are also community leaders and highly principled people of courage. Let me give you some headlines. Maya Noun has been an outspoken advocate for women's empowerment in Lebanon and in the Middle East, and she's the promotion of corporate social responsibility. Soumaya Merhi is an entrepreneur who is an advocate for organic farming and healthy living, while at the same time hired people from challenging social economic backgrounds. Mohammad Fakih has set up his own foundation and supports entrepreneurs in unprivileged communities. But what struck me was the fact that he covered the funeral cost for the 6 worshippers who were slain in the mass shooting at Quebec City Mosque. Sami Ghosn kept harvesting grapes despite the threat of war, maintaining the wine and arak can help spread the word that Lebanon is open for business in a spirit of tolerance and coexistence. I'm going to start by introducing each speaker, followed by a question, and then we open up to broader discussion among all. We will find a detailed biography of each panelist in your program book. My hope is that through our discussion, we can develop a concrete and realistic action. We, in the diaspora, can help the Lebanese companies increase their penetration in the Canadian market and perhaps other markets. But before I introduce, let me talk a little bit about myself. My name is Cheaib. I came to Canada in 1991 at the age of 13. I studied and worked in the family business. 20 years later, I went out on my own. I opened a fish market and a restaurant under one roof. I subsequently opened and sold 2 other fish restaurants. Raised with a sense of social responsibility, I also sit on the Cedar Cancer Foundation Board of Directors. Enough about me. Our first panelist is Maya Noun, and believe me, she is a force of nature. Maya owns Curly Q and Go Bites restaurant, as well as a catering company. She's also the General Secretary of the Syndicate of Owners and Restaurants, Cafes, Nightclubs, and Pastries in Lebanon. To kick it off, Maya, can you just try to elaborate a little bit? We've been talking a lot about Lebanese gastrodiplomacy. Can you tell us a little bit what it means and how it started?
First, I would like to thank His Excellency Minister Gibran Bassil for launching this initiative at LDE in Beirut in May. Lebanese gastrodiplomacy is all about promoting Lebanese cuisine around the world. It's also about encouraging the trade of Lebanese products and Lebanese industries. It also encourages the exchange of young chefs, so we're hoping to bring young chefs from all over the world, Lebanese origin chefs, to Lebanon to really get the taste of the real flavors of Lebanon. But most importantly, it's to engrave in everyone's minds that some foods were first invented on Lebanese soil and then exported to the world, although a lot of neighboring countries claim differently. So we really need to differentiate between Lebanese and Mediterranean, or Lebanese and Middle Eastern, Lebanese and Levantine. Each and every member of the Lebanese diaspora has a duty to propagate the Lebanese gastronomy around the world and help in strengthening our culinary heritage, which has been a bit stolen. So these are the main points of the Lebanese Gastrodiplomacy Initiative.
How are the tastes that evolving in Lebanon and the Middle East? How is it reflected in the different concepts that you have developed?
In Lebanon and the Middle East, we are very much up to date with the global food trends. And it is worth mentioning that the Lebanese are pioneers when it comes to developing new concepts and new initiatives. So they have developed successful homegrown concepts and prototypes and exported these concepts to a lot of the countries in the Middle East, the Gulf, Africa, and even in Europe recently. And this applies to a lot of cuisines, a lot of variety. We're talking not only about Lebanese gastronomy, but even about Asian, Indian, American, and all that. As far as the Lebanese food is concerned, it has not evolved in taste and flavor. However, we have noticed a big evolution on the street food trends. What used to be only an artisanal manouche or a falafel or a shawarma has become now a chain, a very structured chain with ISO, with HACCP, with SOPs and standards. Although the little artisanal ones still do exist. Another rising trend in the area is the increasing demand for vegan, gluten-free, organic, healthy. I think Soumaya will talk more about this later. And lactose-free products and restaurants. And this is actually a global trend, not just in the Middle East and Lebanon. To answer your second question, I've been in the business of owning, creating, developing, and operating restaurants in Lebanon and the Middle East. And my latest concepts, the two last concepts I've developed this year, are actually Curly Q was last year. Curly Q, for this concept, we used state-of-the-art technology to create a new type of cake. It's the result of 2 years of research and development. Hence, we created a very unique concept. It's mainly all about a cake baked on a spit and baked layer after layer, and this is a very new concept.
Perfect. We'll come back for some more ideas. Soumaya Merhi was born in Montreal and raised in Lebanon. She created today's Lebanon most specialized and healthiest confection factory and bakery called Taka. Soumaya, what I would like to know is that we had spoken before, I think it was an important factor you pointed out, is that you wanted to explain how you were able to finance your project in the beginning. Can you please tell us a little bit about how the idea came and how were you able to finance your project?
Definitely, I would like to elaborate on this point. Now, a lot of people, when they know that I'm a graduate from Concordia, I worked in Montreal, and 5 years ago, I decided to go back to Lebanon. And most people think that this might be a crazy concept to come back to Lebanon. And I was in Palais de Congrès 5 years ago at a trade show called Expo Manger Santé, and it was an explosive health snack trend that started. And I knew that I wanted to go back home and bring this to Lebanon. I just did not know how. So there was not really a business plan at the time, and there was not a strategy in place. So I went back home, and it started very basic, very small, and I went to trade. So I went directly to trade, and I got to know what trade is in Lebanon. In 2016, so 3 years later, when I was thick-skinned by then, after a lot of experience, بالسوق اللبناني, I decided to raise capital, and this is why I said that I would love to mention this, is that I went to the startup ecosystem. So I Am Capital, which is part of the Veritech Fund, Veridis, which is an environmental fund that supports green companies, and an angel investor. I was able to pool in enough investment today to automate my lines, have an international food management system. We distribute in Lebanon in 300 points of sale across modern trade and traditional trade. And we also are located in the regional markets. So today we export to Dubai, Qatar, Saudi's on the way. We've recently been in London. So Taka has made quite a little, it's flown a little bit. And also being a product that is healthy. So we're a vegan product. We don't work with genetically modified cereals. We're a dairy-free product. So we also were able to, we were the pioneers in healthy snacking today. And the brand is called Taka.
What are the natural products that you think could work if you import them to Canada?
I think in order to, what is unique or what differentiates the Lebanese product, my products, or at least this is what I think makes them different and had success in the Lebanese market, is that we have a relationship to them. So we integrate rose water, orange blossom water, roasted nuts, dates, a lot of dates in the products, dark chocolate that we're familiar with in the 90s, بالvermicelle. So what I've tried to do is that I use Lebanese taste palettes and I reintroduce them in healthy snacking. And this is, I think, there's a point of differentiation, which is taste. The Taka products have distinct flavors to them.
Interesting. Mohammad Fakih arrived in Canada in 2000. In 2007, he bought Paramount Fine Foods in Toronto. A little more than a decade later, Paramount has over 2,000 employees, and by the end of this year, it's expected to have over 60, and I think you corrected me, 70. I'm sorry for there's a big difference. 70 locations in Canada and the United States and overseas. My question to you, Mohammad, is that how were you able to introduce North Americans to the wonders of Lebanese cuisine?
Well, I think anything you want to introduce to a new market, it stays within the same concept. Start with several steps. Step number one is knowing your audience. So you need to understand your audience, what they're looking for, and how can you bring them in. And you can see it already that all Canadians are looking for healthy food. So Lebanese food is healthy food. But on the other side, you need to find out what's the problem and how can you correct it. When I started, the problem was that Lebanese food was presented, moms and pop shawarma places, presented at very low level, didn't look great with nice decor, great system, right? And Canadians do want to venture outside the box. They actually appreciate other cultures. And what's better than food? In every religion, in every community, there is something very special about breaking bread together and sharing food together. So it was only the delivery of the Middle Eastern food. And most importantly as well, there is a very important point, besides knowing your audience, is make your audience familiar to the product you're going to bring in. So we started a campaign teaching Canadians how to say fattoush and how to say shish tawouk, because 90% of everyone's fear is basically embarrassing themselves or venturing into something that they're not comfortable with. When you teach them how to say it, you teach them how to cook it, you tell them that it's healthy, and you present it to them with similar environment than any other restaurant where they go when you're presenting it healthier, authentic. And most importantly, one last point is not to bring only food the way it tastes. It's just to bring the whole culture together. Because we do shareables back home, right? We put plates, we all eat in the same plate, we put leme and we eat it. And it's very important to maintain the shareable culture. Canadians don't go to a Lebanese food to have a steak on their own, everyone separate plate. It's good to share the hummus and dip into the pita and the hummus. So bringing in a new product, especially food, to Canadians was almost an easy task. It's just simply you wanted to follow the Lebanese way of doing it, which is shareable food, sense of family coming together.
Obviously.
Right? And that like bringing all these factors made it very easy to Canadian. But as well, another step is Canadians are not used to have a Middle Eastern chain that has a location beside each other on every corner of Toronto, for example, right? And we made it available, and the time is the enemy lately. Everyone has a problem with time, right? Having it available at multiple locations and easy to reach, it was a great factor for people to really come more often to eat to eat Lebanese food and to try to find out about Lebanese food. So we own something called Paramount Academy, where we have courses for non-Middle Eastern coming to learn how to cook Lebanese food. And you'll be very impressed and surprised how many people really call to register, and half of our classes are full. And that's the only way, is following a system, understanding what the audience want, facilitate it and make it simple for them, make them familiar so they're not embarrassed. Actually, they start coming to show off in front of their friend that they know the food, they know how to order, and they know how to share it all together, which is sense of family.
But has it been difficult for you when you were growing your company to have access to Lebanese products from Lebanon?
Well, there is difficulty of having access to sustainable standard, like with high standard Lebanese product that comes consistently to you. And when you're growing, sustainability and consistency is the secret sauce to success. So yeah, great. I mean, everybody can do a great shawarma, and my mom does the best tabbouleh, and your mom does the best kibbeh. But if you do it once, it's a hobby. If you can repeat it, it's a business, right?
Good way of putting it.
Yeah, a lot of people do it once, they hit it hard, and yeah, great, everybody goes, but can you repeat it?
Exactly the same thing every single time.
Absolutely, and the problem with the supplies, and I think it's a bigger vision. Lebanese that they are here in Canada that works in the food industry, and the Lebanese that they are working in Lebanon in the food industry need to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is, if we're successful here, And we want to work with back home, which is add to our success. Not only is the right thing to do. I like to talk a lot of more business, but you'll end up finding out the right thing to do and the most profitable thing to do possibly are the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So the right thing to do is benefiting your country, but the profitable thing to do is advertising authentic ingredient. That means basically benefiting your own country.
Absolutely.
But there is an education piece, and I'm going to blame them on this one because the suppliers, and you have nothing to do with it, you're not from the supplier side, but the suppliers in Lebanon, they do the first shipment right, the second shipment right, and the third shipment, it comes 80% comparing to the quality of the one before. So we need to work on making them understand and educate them on the bigger picture. I have several names of suppliers, and I'm not here definitely to defame anybody, but I have several names of suppliers where I used to buy from them hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in Beirut, and I received bad shipments, so I had to stop immediately. So because you can't simply change your standard, because people will say, oh wow, Paramount now is growing, they started growing, and the quality changed. They don't understand that bringing authentic food, bringing that experience of Lebanese food with the Lebanese culture, it takes much more than one factor. It takes more than the ingredient, more than the culture. It takes consistent supply chain. So I think the Lebanese, including the government, including all the associations, need to work together to educate the suppliers in Lebanon to provide high quality supplies that we here can, like with 70 locations worldwide, I cannot afford to have my pickles tasting one way, the tahini tasting the other way every single month. And when you go to the scalability of 70 locations, over $150 million sales a year, that affects your sales, monthly. So it's very important to do the right thing from both sides, from the Lebanese that they're running food and beverage here in Canada or anywhere worldwide, but very important to monitor the quality of the supplies that the suppliers in Lebanon are shipping abroad, right? So we can maintain our success and consistency, and we can keep them busy so they can hire more Lebanese, and we have less young people leaving the country.
I'll come back for later. I think we have a lot to talk about on that subject. But let me jump to my friend. Our fourth panelist is Lebanon's leading winemaker. In 1992, Sami Ghosn started Masaya. 3 years later, he introduced Masaya Ara in the famous blue bottle. In 1998, he partnered with French winemakers and launched the Masaya Wine Company. 20 years later, Masaya Winery is in the Bekaa and Fara. Sami, I'm wondering if you can elaborate on the challenges you have faced in entering the North American market.
Yes, thank you, Joe, for the introduction. Let me just stress that you're very modest in your own introduction. The Cheaib family came from Damour in the Troubles. The Cheaib family came from Damour in the Troubles, and they are one of the most brilliant success stories. And not only that, in terms of success, financial success, I mean, they still embrace us. The first time I was in Montreal, Joe greeted me in his own restaurant, La Sirène, and every time I'm back here, thanks to his support, we did put Lebanese wines and Lebanese Ara on the map. How we penetrate the market, it's with endurance. Mm-hmm. Nothing comes to you as a gift. Or I left Lebanon, we were displaced in 75 like you were, for France, then the US. I came back in 92 after the Syrian invasion of Lebanon, looting and so forth. I recuperated our land in the Bekaa Valley from squatters. I stayed on our own rooftop for 40 days while they were still in the house. Eventually, started Masaya and then met the Brunier family in Châteauneuf and in Bordeaux, Dominique Ebrard, his family on Cheval Blanc, and started the wine.
Can you hear Sami well? No, I think we need to. Can we do something with the volume, please, at Sami's mic?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, now we're talking.
So, I'm not, shall I repeat?
You're not going to repeat that again, right?
So we started Masaya after recuperating the land. I gave back my green card in 1990, and not to be tempted by facility U-turning back to the US. Now we export about 80% of production, and our bottleneck is basically production. I would like, you asked me how to penetrate the market. 3 points: quality, and this I will come back on, logistics, and demand. In this instance, for example, I would like to thank Minister Basile for his insistence on every occasion of having and serving Lebanese wine wherever the occasion presents itself. And not long ago, he was in Deir al-Ahmar, and there were 2 people there drinking Ara. You were one of them, Mr. Minister, while many Lebanese from the Bekha drink whiskey. When I started Masaya in the Bekha, they said, شو فهموا إذا جاي من بيروت جاي عملنا عرق هون بزحلة. We came, we did the blue bottle, and I think it put back Araq making on the map. With the French, we needed also know-how. The most important know-how I came to discover is that the quality of a wine is in the grape. 98% of the quality of a wine is the grape. Lebanon, ladies and gentlemen, produces amongst the very best grapes in the world. It is no coincidence if the Romans, while their empire stretched all the way from Asia to Scotland, built the temple, the only temple for Bacchus, the god of grapes and wine, in Baalbek in the Bekha Valley, not in Tuscany, Bordeaux, or certainly not Napa Valley. So what I would like to point out here is if every one of you, and I'm sure many of you do realize that, requested a bottle of Lebanese wine whenever they are going to a social occasion, like the minister has been requesting, like Ambassador Ziadeh stressed, like my dear friend Marwan Hayek and his company Alpha Support, like President Fair, I don't know if he's here, and Bank of Beirut support, SAQ had to airship a full pallet of wine because there wasn't enough Lebanese wine here, so we had to airship a pallet of Masai wine. Just to tell you, because the quality is there, because the logistic you have to work on it, and the demand, you are the people that can. We should not, rely on the others to come to us and beg us for wine. It's not going to happen this way. We have to be there. Let me tell you 2 things about the quality. Lebanese wines are organic by default. We don't irrigate, we don't have to spray the grapes. We don't force nature in any way. And the second thing that is very important when you talk quality is the origin's reputation. Chile under Pinochet, under dictatorship, could not sell wine. There would not be demand. South Africa under apartheid, they were not able to sell wine either. Nonetheless, and despite all the hardship around Lebanon and in Lebanon, thanks to each one of you, the reputation of Lebanon and the resonance of Lebanon remained positive, and people requested wine. Our main customers in Quebec or in Montreal and in general in Canada are not the Lebanese. The Lebanese opened the door. It's the Canadians now that are friends with Lebanese and friends with their generosity and friendship and all of that are ordering the wines. So if every Lebanese in Lebanon, especially the diaspora, would take a bottle of wine when going to a social occasion, wherever it is, you would save farmers from leaving their land. You would save Lebanon from quarries, from asphalt, from concrete. A vine in Lebanon doesn't need watering. You know that. We have almost snow-capped mountains almost year long, and the vine doesn't need water. This is why this plant, our grandparents and ancestors had in front of every house, be it for the grape, for the vine leaves, for the wood, for the burning, for hosrum, all these, it's a very versatile brand. A bottle of wine, in your mindset, is one vine leaf planted in Lebanon. So we would reach, Mr. Minister, the 100 million bottles from the 10 million we are producing today without forcing anyone's arm. Economically, you cannot do it anyway. But if the Lebanese diaspora, this is part of our Lebanity. And imagine the impact of how much this upscales Lebanon's image when you are offering a bottle of Lebanese wine and the discussion this brings. How many times I'm in New York and so forth. How can you make wine and there is so and so in Lebanon? I'm not going to get political about it, but a bottle of wine from Lebanon is the message of Lebanon every one of us here craves for. I think time is up.
Yes,
I should shut up.
twice already.
Twice.
You took double the time today. At the outset, let me thank for all our panelists for participation today. Each of you have brought a unique perspective to the challenges facing the Lebanese food industry in Lebanon and in Canada and in the international market. On behalf of all of us, a big thank you. I am particularly pleased because I believe we accomplished what we set out to do. There are concrete measures that we, the diaspora, can pursue and help Lebanese companies access the Quebec and the Canadian market. My bet is similar initiatives can be undertaken elsewhere in North America and maybe the world. The game plan that we are proposing is as follows. The first step is to improve the link between Beirut and Montreal and Toronto. I have personally looked to import fresh fish, but have not been able to do so because there's no direct flight. We need a direct flight so we can have access to fresh produce. We have tried in the past with the Canadian government to approve a direct flight, and I know that Air Canada, for one, is very interested to do this route. We and the Lebanese government and the business leaders need to redouble our efforts. We need to continue lobbying, and we need to urge community leaders to step forward and get this job done. This is an essential part of our conversation, how we can grow, how we're able at least to import all the Lebanese products that we need. I think a straight flight would solve an immense problem for everybody. The second step is to introduce Canadians to the taste of Lebanon. Our cuisine, our wines, and our spirits. We should have Lebanese cuisine featured in Montréal en Lumière, our city's annual winter festival in 2020. We bring Lebanese chefs over here to share in their talent. And we could have Lebanese wine pairing to go with the meal. I am nominating Maya to co-chair and organize this with me.
It's a pleasure.
Please approach me over the course of the weekend if you would like to join our group. I appreciate that the Canadian market extends beyond Montreal. And I am wondering if we cannot have a program similar to Montreal en Lumière in other Canadian cities. And if we bring our Lebanese chefs, we can also take them to Toronto, Vancouver. I will look to Mohammad for some guidance in this matter.
For sure.
The third step is to boost popularity of Lebanese wines. In Canada, there's over 50 wineries in Lebanon, and I think the numbers have been continuously going up, Sami?
Yes, how much you said
The number I have is 50. 50 wineries?
Yeah, plus than 50 now. I think there are about 70 wineries, yes. And they're scattered across Lebanon, not just, we have wineries in Batroun, in the Bekaa, in the south, so it's not only the Bekaa Valley. All of Lebanon's soil, ladies and gentlemen, is suitable for planting vines. We have at Masaya vines on Mount Lebanon overlooking the Bekaa, and we have grapes in Ras Baalbek, which is the eastern mountain range of Lebanon, and they're even of more interesting
But
quality.
the wines that we're, the grapes that we're using are mainly grapes are from Lebanon, or do we go outside to get our wines?
No, you. Also, there are a couple of things that are in the mindsets. I mentioned the quality of the grapes, and this includes the timeline between picking the grapes and getting them to the vats. If you want to compete on the international market, you have to have, going on a racing horse, you have to have a racing horse on a racing track. Grapes If they travel a long distance, there is no way you can make quality wine. They're all from Lebanon. And also I hear sometimes speculations about, oh, you know, a glass of red wine from Lebanon gives me a headache. Also, this is in the mindset. You have massive wineries everywhere. There are a couple of those in Lebanon. When you want to make wine, you have to make quality. And when you do too much of a big production, there are shortcuts. They add sulfites, and people can be sensitive to migraine. But let me assure you, wines from Lebanon and grapes quality from Lebanon is really unmatchable.
Let me continue with my remarks on at least improving the market share of of wines in Lebanon, in Canada. As a community, we can do this in two ways. First of all, we can ask the owners of our favorite restaurants to offer Lebanese wines on their menus. In my own case, I offer different ethnic wines because some of my clients have asked me to do so. So I urge each one of you in the audience to gently reach out to your local restaurateur and ask them to do the same. Second, we can petition the LCBO and the SAQ at the store and the corporate level to stock Lebanese wines. If they see that the demand is there, they will certainly be supportive. Maybe we can even link the SAQ with the promotion of Montréal en Lumière. But I don't want to conclude right away because we had talked about something that I think all of you wanted to elaborate on certain subjects that maybe we were not able to cover. So I would start with you, Maya. What would you like to add, and what do you think is the possibility for you today, for example, if you want to decide to bring a concept of a restaurant to Canada? What are your, what's stopping you from doing that?
First, I would want to say that in the last few days, I've explored a bit the area, the business here. And I definitely feel there's much more need for Lebanese concepts, Lebanese restaurants, all types, fast food, fine dining. Lebanese cuisine is so rich and wealthy. We cannot just have 3 or 4 restaurants, Lebanese, in a big city like Montreal.
Sure.
And I have my own part of blaming also. I would love to see Lebanese signage, Lebanese labeling on the restaurant, not Middle Eastern. So really, I really urge all Lebanese restaurant owners in Canada and Northern America to put Lebanese restaurants and Lebanese cuisine.
That's a hint to me.
No, this is to everyone. On the other hand, really, those who are not serving Lebanese cuisines, please do not put Lebanese cuisine
Absolutely.
on your doors.
I agree.
So
I agree 100%.
this is something I would really want to do as justice for the Lebanese cuisine.
Anything else to add?
That's it.
Hamad, do you want to conclude with something that you would like to clarify?
You know, I just want to go back to the comments. So she read my business card that says Middle Eastern food. Let me tell you, our diversity, it's not, I mean, what I always say is diversity is a fact. Inclusion is our choice. If we were to come to Canada and separate between Middle Eastern themselves, when we do accept every other community, I have a problem with that. I rather call my restaurant Middle Eastern cuisine serving Lebanese food, or Middle Eastern cuisine run by Lebanese. So I can include everybody. I was just talking about how great is to break bread together. And I always, when I speak publicly, I always see 5 Lebanese walking together and 5 from Pakistan walking together and 5 from Afghanistan walking together. And the first thing I address them and I say, can you please don't sit like this, mix together, because you have nothing to teach each other. So we need to become inclusive by choice. And if we start by separating Lebanese food, you have the Israeli fights the Lebanese and the Palestinian who did the falafel and the other guy. No, I think we should be more inclusive while we advertise our Lebanese entrepreneurship. I always say, these days, the bottom line has changed. At my dad's time, my dad used to say profit. Profit is the most important thing. Today, I think the reason of success is 4 P's. The last comes the profit, the money. The first come the people. Today is a fight of not money and who's richer. Today is a fight of talent. Who can maintain and retain retention of talents? The second part is planet. Who can run a business profitable while you're worrying about the environment? And the third part is purpose. I take a pride that I run a company that when we were even one restaurant, and today at 70 locations worldwide, we run a company with a great purpose of giving back to the community. If you run a company that environmentally aware and a company that worries about the community, you will gather so many more people around you. Let me tell you, the vice president of Paramount is the senior vice president of McDonald's. He left McDonald's with a huge salary to come to work with a company with purpose. So that's very important. And then becomes the profit, right? Because if you have a company with purpose, if you have a company with good people, and you have a company that worries about the planet, who doesn't want to support a company that does good? Part of their DNA is donating and helping the community. So it's very important. A lot of people ask, what is the reason of success? And the last part is culture. Having the right culture, culture of family. I always say the culture of Paramount is love. It's a love culture. You love your customer, you love your country, you love the food, you love each other, you love the staff, right? Having a great culture within your own company. The IKEA culture. Making your executive feel part of the creation.
But I have to, as a moderator, I'm not allowed to give my point of view, but here I would like to add something. I think it's about time that all Lebanese restaurants call themselves Lebanese restaurants, okay? Because if we don't do, we are diluting who we are and what we stand for. And in the beginning, I was one of them where he had always an issue that, you know what, you were always skating and avoiding. But I think by doing that, we're harming our culture, we're harming our values. I, for one, I have a Lebanese fish restaurant, and that will be on all my cards.
Yeah.
Okay? But we have to face that fact because
it's true,
it keeps going back and forth, and I think we have to talk about it. It's a big elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk about it, but I think it's time now that, we've done enough.
Paramount Lebanese Kitchen is a Paramount Lebanese restaurant. So Paramount, it says Lebanese Kitchen. But I'm still going to insist to the point. In Canada, we need to always take an inclusive approach to the world. And if we do not include others, right, we can't ask to be included.
I agree.
That said, specifying the type of food is absolutely right. Nor Adonis said that Adonis is a Lebanese supermarket. It doesn't, right?
But I have to, again, disagree with you on one thing.
It's always good to disagree.
Our essential problem is that we are integrated, so we are already part of the society. So I think we should give our culture its due value and move ahead with it.
Absolutely.
Sami, anything to add?
Two things. Let me reiterate that a bottle of wine, ladies and gentlemen, from Lebanon is a message of civility, of tolerance, of our education, of our openness. This is the most beautiful gift you can offer from your own and about the image of your country. So in the name of the Temple of Bacchus that stands today in the Bekaa Valley, and every vine farming person in Lebanon, I invite you to offer and resonate Lebanese wines, be it in your beautiful restaurants, or in your homes, or in your social events. And a second remark, I have started Masaya in '98. It's our 20th anniversary. And not once have I seen any person in the political establishment that has done the drive Minister Basil has done, be it through the Agriculture Ministry, be it through the LDE, all the efforts you are embracing and energizing and bringing together in terms of energizing Lebanon and Lebanon's image is really unique. I have never seen the Lebanese establishment as a state back in any way. You have friends here that are from the diverse part of the industry. I produce and work in Lebanon. Besides your own personal efforts and your own personal energy that you have put on that chapter. And I take the occasion of having
Sami, your
ambassadors
time is clicking.
from the South America.
Your time is clicking.
Sorry? Sorry?
Your time is clicking.
Done? Yeah.
Not yet.
I wanted to just thank them for thinking Mercosur. We discussed it earlier, and I think this would be a huge for Lebanese food and particularly wines.
Soumaya,
Thank you.
what would you like to finish with?
I would like to finish on the end that I think that my business predominantly just operates in Lebanon, and 90% or 95% of my sales are generated from a loyal Lebanese customer base. So for me, I believe Taka cracked Lebanese trade. The last confectionery factory was established in 1857, which we all know as Ghandour. Since then, today, if I ask you, as a Lebanese, what cookie comes to mind, you will tell me either dabke, شو اسمه, the little Ghandour cookies. So I believe that Taka is the confectionery factory that has come after Ghandour. I'm very proud of what this little cookie company has established and done so far. وآمن بالصناعة اللبنانية. I really profoundly believe in it, and I think you're right that we need to work a lot to insist and persist on quality, because it is one, but it's starting, and I see changes, aggressive changes happening across the food and beverage industry in Lebanon. So to that, I say, that's
Well, I
it.
promise
Thank
you I'll
for
be your
having me on
ambassador
the
here.
panel.
I promise you I will be your ambassador for your products in Canada. In conclusion, I would like to
How
thank
can
our
you not?
panelists.
How can you not?
In conclusion, I would like to say our panelists have provided us with more than food for thought. Thank you again for our panelists, and thank you all for your anticipated support.